Welcome to the Rusted Garden Homestead. I'm starting a new series for 2022 called Seed Starting 101. This video is the prerequisites. This is for new gardeners. We're going to cover lighting, sterilizing your starting mix, packing your seed cells or containers for growing the seeds, and water and fertilizing. This is everything you need to know to get you up to speed. Follow me because we'll be planting herbs, flowers, tomatoes, peppers, vegetables, fruits, all kinds of different plants. We'll start indoors and I will show you how to do that. But these are the first 4 videos you really need to watch to have an understanding of what goes into starting seeds indoors. Next thing you're going to need are lights. Any basic shop light, white LED lights will work. They're relatively inexpensive. This was about $20. So first thing you want to do is you want to make sure that the lumens value is at least 3,000 or higher. I recommend 5,000 lumens. That's perfect. And you want the color of light. It's called Kelvin. Sometimes it has a number on there, and the number you'd be looking for is 4100K to 6500K. That mimics daylight. If it doesn't have that number, it should say daylight. That will set you up. Most of these lights are hooded, which is what I recommend. They have a hood, 2 LED strips going through here. It's perfect for transplants. That's all you're growing. It's white light. And make sure that it has a plug. A plug like that. You want it to go into an outlet. You don't want it to be hardwired into a ceiling or something like that. So as long as it has a plug, you're going to be good to go. You just put them into power strips like that. You're also going to want to get yourself a timer. Any kind of timer works. You're going to have your lights on anywhere from 12 to 16 hours. A basic setup can look like this if it's something more elaborate and you're growing a lot of plants, but all you really need is 1 shelf. I recommend 2 lights, and when you look on the underside you can see what I'm talking about. 2 strips of white lights. If you want to just go with 1 light like this, your seed flat would go in there. You keep the light on, you'll be able to do 2 flats. You can do a lot of plants. If you do 2 lights, you can get 4 of these flats in here going across, and that's plenty of transplants for most people. In the next video I'll be talking about the seed starting cells and containers and how to set up the soil in the cells so that you can get great germination and have wonderful transplants. Thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe and follow me. I'll be doing a quick 3-minute series on seed starting indoors over the next couple of months. This is the number 1 tip that I have to help you have better success starting seeds indoors. This is your basic potting mix. Any brand that is peat based has a really good chance of having fungus gnat eggs in the peat moss, and that's just something that happens naturally. It's not because it's a bad brand. Fungus gnat eggs tend to be in peat moss. Now, because you're starting indoors in a small space, the only real soil you have there are your seed starts. If you don't take care of fungus gnats, they will infest your seed starts, damage the plants, and it's a problem. Take your starting mix, put it into a pail. You're going to add boiling water. That will kill the fungus gnats. Do this about a week before you're going to start your seeds. And you're better off having this to be a little more soaked and watery than underdoing it. And then you just let this sit for that 7 days. The water will evaporate and you can just use your seed starting mix. Now, this will kill off any soil life in there. Seed starts do not need any kind of soil life to start and to grow. You can worry about that when you pot these plants up or when you go outside, or you can add in microbes and soil life later on. But you really want to do this. This is pretty well saturated. It's kind of hot. If I squeeze this, you'll see the water come out. You could add just a little bit more. You just want to ensure you kill off the fungus gnats. And like I was saying, you can add in the soil life later. But if you get an infestation of fungus gnats, they're really hard to control. So prevention by using boiling water is the best way to take care of that. The fungus gnats are not going to survive this. Well soaked, kind of hot, don't do that. Dripping out. Put some foil on there. Keep the heat in. And let me grab the lid. Take the lid put it on there, leave it like that for a couple of hours till it cools down. Thanks for watching. Please check out my seed shop at therustedgarden.com. I want to talk about seed cells and flats, and basically the containers that you'd put your starting mix in and you'd grow your transplants. I'll show you how to set these up with the starting mix and thumb pack them in. But here's some of the basics. I sell most of this at my seed shop, but you can find these in stores. This is what you typically see. This is called a 6-cell. This is a basic starter cell. Some soil goes into there, some starting mix, and it goes into a flat. A flat is this big container where I bottom water. I'll show you how to do that in the next episode. I'll go over with you. How do you know when to water your seed starts? That's a question I get a lot. And bottom watering is the best way to do that. But you can set up your growing area just like this. This is 3, 6, 9, 12, 6 packs, 6 cells. And that's 72 plants you can go in there. They would go into a flat. They also come in different sizes. You can get something larger like this. When you plant into a larger cell, of course you'll be growing fewer plants, but you don't have to pot up your transplant. So if you're just doing a handful of tomatoes, you might want to start in here instead of something like this. Obviously more soil's in there. The plants can grow longer. You can just keep them in there. If you don't want to pick up the plastic cells, you can also, or flats, you can go to the dollar store, pick up any baking tray, and you could set your cells right in there. You could use cups. These are 8-ounce cups. I recommend cups that are about 8 or 9 ounces. Make sure whatever you use, you have to poke holes in there. You want the water to drain out. You also want a bottom water so that the water goes into the plant. That's the cleanest way and best way to do that. You could use yogurt containers. You can cut water bottles in half. You can use whatever you want for your growing cups, your growing cells, and your flat. But just make sure you put holes in it. Now when you're setting up your seed cells or your containers, you want a nice solid planting base. So that means you take your starting mix, and if you check out the other episodes, I showed you how to make this sterile by using boiling water. Question I got a lot from that video is, do I have to wait 7 days before I use it? I usually do it 7 days ahead of time. This way if anything hatches or any problems, I know. But you could use this right away once it cools down. But you want to just drop the soil on, thumb pack it down. You want a nice solid base, something like that. And then you just go ahead and press on any big sticks that might be in there, get rid of them. And this sets up a nice solid planting base for your seed starts. If you're doing something smaller, like a smaller container, it's the same principle, whatever it is. Put the soil in, press it in. You don't have to pack everything in, just a nice press right down the middle. And this is a perfect planting base for your seed starts. So this is the materials you basically need. Starting mix, lights we've already talked about, flats, cells. This will get you set up to grow seeds indoors. Thanks so much for watching, and please subscribe. I'll be doing these short 2 to 5 minute videos on starting seeds indoors, obviously. The next one we're going to be talking about is watering. How do you know when to water your seed starts and what's the best way to water them? Come January and February, I'll show you how to plant all kinds of different flowers, herbs, and vegetables, and everything you're setting up today. Thanks for watching. Kind of the last prerequisite that you'll need to understand for starting seeds indoors is how and when to water your seed starts and when would you fertilize them. So I'm going to cover that now quickly. So when you get a seed starting mix out of a bag, it's usually a light brown like this. It's not full of water, it's not saturated. And then I showed you in the video, we put it into a container. We add in boiling water to control the fungus gnats. It gets to be a nice dark color. So when you set it up in your seed starting cells or trays or containers, it's a nice dark color. I'm starting different herbs in here right now, and it's nice and dark. Over time, the soil will begin to dry from the top down. As soon as it becomes a light brown, wait a day or two. You want the top to be a little bit dry. Helps manage funguses and molds by letting the top dry a bit. But moisture will remain down below the surface. Once it gets dry, in contrast real quick, that's a dry starting mix. That's a dark starting mix. When it looks like that, it's about time to water. I always water from the bottom. Take out a tray, pour water in. There should always be holes in the bottom of your container, and maybe fill this, a quarter of the way. Eventually you get used to how much water to put in there. The containers will absorb the water up, and the light brown will turn dark brown. And you just kind of follow that process as your seed starts growing. The bigger the plants get, the more quickly they dry out. But remember, the top will dry first, moisture will be at the bottom, so you have plenty of time. Just wanted to show you what the process looks like. These are cells that are fully saturated. So as they're absorbing water from the bottom, you're going to see them go from the light color to the dark color. After about 30 minutes, they should have absorbed all the water they're going to pull into the cells. Just dump out the excess. You don't want water sitting in here for days. So 30 minutes, maybe a little bit longer, dump it out, and your seed cells will be good to go. Now, a seed will grow off of the seed coat. It'll get plenty of nutrition from the coat that surrounds the seed. So when it germinates, it's living off of its shell, basically. After about 10 days to 14 days of the plant germinating and growing, you're going to need to fertilize. And as we put water into here, you would just use any water-soluble fertilizer, fill up your container, and use that water-soluble fertilizer at about a quarter of strength. Meaning if it says put in 1 tablespoon into a gallon of water, use a quarter of a tablespoon in a gallon of water. Your plants in these starting cells don't need a lot of fertilizer. In fact, you can do more harm by over-fertilizing them because the fertilizer will concentrate in the cells. It can cause a problem. Just a very low amount of any water-soluble fertilizer, once a month or twice a month. Just swap out when when the soil gets a light color. Instead of just putting in water, put in some water with fertilizer in there. Maybe do that once a month when they're smaller. As they get bigger, you may have to do that twice a month. But that will be plenty of fertilizer. This is a perfect way to water your plants, and this is just the pattern you would follow throughout the growing period of your different plants. So now that we have the basics set up, starting in January, if you want to follow, we're going to plant perennial flowers, herbs, we're going to do tomatoes, peppers, and all kinds of vegetables for your garden, seed starting indoors. That was a clumsy way to say that, but I'm going to grow everything you can think of inside so you can take it out to your garden. Thanks for watching, and please check out my seed shop at therustedgarden.com.